Hi everyone and welcome to the tutorial. Today we're going to be doing something really fun, which is learning how to make tassels. I'm particularly interested in making tassels so that I can attach them to my knitwear, such as on the corners of a shawl or a blanket, but they also look really effective strung on a garland, and they're a very fun activity. To make tassels, you just need the yarn that you want to use. You can use any yarn. I've got some DK weight here, but you can do it with fingering weight, sport weight, whatever you have. You'll also need a piece of cardboard, something that's strong. This is just taken off of a scrap box. I just cut a piece off. It's about 10 centimeters long this way, and I've marked it with an arrow just to remember that this is the 10 centimeter length here, and I've just found that that makes a tassel that I really like the size of. So just grab something that's nice and strong and can withstand having yarn wrapped around it several times. You'll also need some scissors, something that's nice and sharp to make it easy to cut through the yarn, and I'm going to be using a tapestry needle as well. So let's get started. So the first step with making a tassel is to wrap your yarn around your cardboard. So as I said, I've marked my cardboard so I know which width is 10 centimeters. It's a little bit shorter this way, which is fine. I could wrap it that way as well, but my tassels would end up a little bit smaller. And if I forgot which way I had wrapped them, I would end up with tassels that are slightly different sizes, and I don't want that. I want them to all be consistent. So I'm going to be wrapping from bottom to top around the cardboard this way. So literally all you do for this step is to grab the yarn you're using. I'm going to hold the tail at the base of the cardboard and go up and over, and that is one wrap. On the next wrap, I'm going to catch the tail of the first wrap like so, just put the second wrap over the top of it just to hold that in place, and now when we keep wrapping you won't have this end flapping around. So just keep going up and over the cardboard like so. So that's 4 wraps. I found that I usually like to do about 60 wraps in total for a nice sized tassel. I've just found that it makes a tassel that isn't so plump that it starts to turn into a pom-pom, but it's not too thin either. It just has a really nice look. So I'm just going to keep wrapping around the cardboard. I don't want to go too wide with it. Don't wrap all the way out to the sides of the cardboard. Try to keep your wraps in the middle, which means going over the top of the wraps you already have. And that'll just make it a lot easier to tie off the wraps in the next step. So ideally I would be counting how many wraps I'm doing in my head. If you lose count or you're 1 or 2 under or over, that's not going to make a big difference, so don't worry too much about being exact with it. But I'm just going to keep wrapping my cardboard, and we'll come back in a minute when it's all done. Okay, so I've now wrapped my cardboard about 60 times, and you'll see that I've kept the wraps to the center of the cardboard, because the next thing I'm going to do is tie them all off at the top. So we can now cut this yarn, and I like to cut it close to the edge of the cardboard. And don't put this away yet, because now what we're going to do is cut a length that we will tie the top off with. So I would generally aim for a length of yarn that's about 45 centimeters or so. You don't want it too long because that can be a bit wasteful, but you don't want it too short, because if you keep it too short you might not have enough to tie it off to whatever you're attaching it to. So be a little generous, but not too generous, I suppose. So I'm just going to cut this. There's my length there. And now what I'm going to do, you could use your tapestry needle at this point if you want, but I'm just going to pinch my wraps together and thread the yarn underneath them like so. And now I'm going to tie off the top. So just pull the yarn through, And now we're going to tie this as tightly as we possibly can. So, like so. And I'm going to double knot it so it's nice and strong. Just make sure it's keeping that bottom knot nice and tight. There we go. So that could possibly be a bit tighter, but we can come back and undo it and retighten it later if need be. Okay, so our next step is to grab our scissors again, and we're going to cut all of these wraps through the bottom edge of the cardboard. So it's really important to not cut the end that's tied off. That's going to be the little sort of round top of the tassel, and this is going to be the fringy edge. So this step is also easier if you've used a thick and particularly a corrugated piece of cardboard, because it's really easy to get your scissors into that groove that the cardboard naturally has. But all I'm going to do is cut through all of those wraps. My scissors are not that sharp, so it's a little bit tricky. It's easier the sharper your scissors are. So once you've cut through all the ends, you can take the cardboard away. Make sure your knot and yarn is at the top, and that's what it will look like. You'll just have this sort of fringe that's knotted at the top. So to make this look pretty and like a tassel, the next thing we're going to do is to do a little knot at the top, which will create a little sort of ball shape, and then you'll have this lovely fringe coming off the bottom. So we're going to grab that yarn again. So this is my yarn here, and we're going to cut another length of yarn that's about the same length as the one we cut before. You want to make sure it's not too short so that you have plenty of yarn to wrap around and not too long. So I'm now going to tie this length of yarn about a centimetre or two down from where this knot at the top is. So put it under my cut wraps. And we're going to knot it fairly tightly again. Like so. And we're going to double knot to make sure it's nice and secure. You wouldn't want this coming undone later on. There we go. And if your top looks a bit messy, you can just pull the yarn to neaten it up. If you've got any little straggly bits. But that looks pretty good. Okay, so our final step is to hide this knot that we have here, and that's why we left a really long tail. We're going to use this yarn and literally just wrap it over the knot like so. So we're covering it up. So we're going to wrap that a couple of times, and then we're going to grab our tapestry needle, thread it with that yarn, and then we're going to go over the wraps with the tapestry needle and into the fringy part at the bottom and pull that yarn through, which will just hide that knot beautifully. And I'm just going to do that with the other end as well. I might wrap it in the opposite direction. Just 3 times around. You don't have to do it too many times. thread the tapestry needle again and go up and over the wraps and pull the yarn through. And there, our little tassel now looks like a tassel. If you like, you can now just spend a little bit of time trimming the bottom of your tassel. Make sure all of the ends are nice and neat and even. But apart from that, you will now use these ends to tie the tassel to your project, and that's all done. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and see you next time.